All right, welcome to the Electronic Thesis and Dissertation Workshop. I'm so happy to have you all here, and please feel free. We have the Q&A up, and so that's your best way to communicate with me. I can see the Q&A, and then I have Ashley Ray in the background who is also monitoring the Q&A so that we can answer all of your questions. I find that this workshop goes much better when we really answer your questions, okay? That's the most important thing to me, is that you understand what the process is. And so please feel free to pop the questions in there, and then that way we can make sure that we're communicating things effectively. So let me introduce myself. I'm Ruth Barr, and I'm the Associate Dean in the Office of Graduate Studies. And so it's always a pleasure. I look forward to this every semester. I miss seeing your faces. That's always fun, because then I know if I'm making contact that you understand, but I'm so glad that you're here. This is recorded, so it will be available. It will show up on our website under the recording section, so go up on our website, and it's out on a YouTube channel. Great question. How do we document your attendance? That is an old myth. We haven't documented attendance for about 10 years now. It's just too hard for us to do, so you're fine. So that's great. I'm glad you're here. Please tell your department, and if you know that you attended. It's really to your benefit to be here. You can watch the slides online, or you can do it earlier, so it's fine. Ashley Ray is in the background. I wanted to let you know, and she is the person that does a lot of the review of your thesis and dissertation, so be nice to her, and she can answer a lot of questions for you through the ETD email. But we're going to talk a little bit about the website. There's a lot of things out there that are really designed to help you. I know it's overwhelming, the amount of information, but when you have a question, you have a question. So let's get started. Okay, so this is the website. Somebody says they're not hearing anything. I would go out and come back in. That would be my best suggestion. You might want to write that to them, because if they can't hear anything, they can't lip read me either. It just dawned on me. All right, if you've watched the full hour and a half, that's fine. You may learn something here, but it's up to you. It's totally up to you. Okay, we're going to talk about David will hold on to that question. We'll get to that in about half an hour. Okay. All right, so questions. Everything is right here. This is our website, thegrad.usf.edu, and then over on the right-hand side, it has a box that has ETD Resource Center. And if you go to the Resource Center, so the next slide, these are all the things that are on there. I was just there this morning. I go here 3-4 times a week, okay? Has your deadlines. It has workshops and help sessions. It tells you what to register for. It's very, very helpful. And so this is a great place to go and get the information that you need. And I'm going to address, I know Ashley's answering this. There's a question in the box about Google Docs. Google Docs is not a format. It's a way to make it easy to transpire with your major professor or other people you're writing with, but you can't submit a Google Doc. You have to download it into a Word document, PDF it, and submit it. So it's totally fine to use Google Docs, but your question's an excellent one. It's very difficult to format well in Google Docs. So you're going to have to download it and do it. All right. So let's get back to the Resource Center. So if you have questions, all of this stuff is here. So let's look at some of the things that you can see on the resource website. So the one that I think you'll find most interesting is the ETD formatting requirements. I urge you to start formatting now. Some of you I know are trying to graduate this semester. Start formatting now. Some of you are going to graduate next semester. Start formatting now. It is so much easier at the end when you just start writing it and then have to go back and format it. It becomes a very arduous task. Whereas if you go in and just start formatting it, Right now, it's so much easier. Now here's the #1 formatting rule. Be consistent. We don't care if you do Chicago style, MLA, APA, APA 5, APA 7, don't care. Doesn't matter to us. What matters is that whatever format style you're using, is you do it consistently. That is the #1 thing we send back to you when you submit it for the editing process on our end. What are we sending back? Well, you have, I'm gonna get to that in a minute. You have your titles that aren't all consistent. So in chapter 1, you centered the first level heading and you bolded the second level heading. In chapter 2, you decided to left justify the center heading and you indented the. No. They have to be consistent. Please use the things consistently. One thing you shouldn't use, underlining. What underlining means in the printing world, italics. So go ahead and italicize it, okay? Underlining means italics. That's what it's for. That's where the printer's codes. So underlining is no longer necessary, but the italics. And then, you have to highlight it to underline it. You might as well, instead of hitting the U, just hit the I in Word and it'll italicize it. The other thing I want you to think about is that the formatting is not meant to be super complex. I know it feels that way, but it's not meant to be. So for instance, in your bibliography, it all depends on how you want to do your references. There's many different styles, and it does come out of your citation management program, but even that's not consistent. Okay, you have to double check your references. Just because you use the citation management system doesn't mean that it has all the information. All you have to do is go to Google Scholar and get the reference, and you'll notice sometimes they don't give you the journal volume if you need the issue or the page numbers. They just give you the journal. Okay, so then I always go back in for myself, because I use Google Scholar a lot, and look it up and get the full reference. So just because you downloaded it from somewhere doesn't mean that it's accurate. But the other thing I want you to think about with your reference list, there's a few basic word operations that'll make your life so much easier. So for instance, if you're going to use a hanging indent, so that means that the text starts at the left margin and that the second line is indented, usually 5 spaces, okay? Please don't type till you get to the end of the line and then all of a sudden it flips over and then you use the space bar and put it five spaces in. That will take forever. And I've had many students come and talk to me, oh, it just takes forever. Simple rule of thumb. #1, the space bar is not your friend. The space bar is not your friend. It will result in very uneven kinds of spacing on things. So you don't want to use it. You want to use tabs. And a quick visit with Ashley can show you how to use the tabs. And then all you have to do is just hit the tabs key and it goes over automatically. For references, you can use something known as hanging indent. That's under paragraph, and you go in and you click it, you put 0.5, and then you type your references, and when it wraps, it goes in 5 spaces already for you. So if something is taking you more than 15 or 20 minutes to get it right, shoot an email over to us and let us help you. I promise you, no formatting that we're requiring is that difficult. It's totally fine that you don't know how to do it, but please don't frustrate yourself. I don't want any tears. I don't want any late night throwing things at the wall. We want to help you and make it easy. So one of the things is, let's not use the space bar. Let's use tabs because it does things clearly. Let's use the hanging indent if you want to indent it. We can show you how to move a paragraph over 5 spaces. All of this is under your paragraph icon. So that if you have a quote that's long, you can have your text over here, then you can have it be in the middle there, already indented, indicated it's a quote, and then you can go back out. There's things like that that make the formatting easy. Here's the best tip of the day. At the end of your chapters, put a page break. A page break. So under insert, you'll see page break. You put a page break there and then start chapter 2 on a new page. What that does for you is if you make any more edits in chapter 1, it doesn't mess up the formatting in chapter 2. Okay, so at the end of each chapter, put a page break. It will make your life so much easier. Another tip for doing this is that if you'll notice, we have different numbering on the front pages. They're using little Roman numerals. And then when you get into the main text, it uses Arabic numerals, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just the numbers as you know them. Okay, so we can help you format that. There's a way to format that. You use a section break. If you don't know how to use a section break, please don't try because that's the hardest thing for us to fix on our end. That's the hardest thing to fix. For whatever reason, they don't all show up. I'm one of those weird people that I have all the characters on the screen. So I've got the paragraph marker and I've got the dots for the spaces. And so I can tell I can't ever find the section breaks. So if you don't know how to do it, don't do that. Well, then how am I supposed to do this? 2 PDF files. 2 PDF files. Go in. Do the first one, number them with the little Roman numerals, save that as a PDF file. Have a file that's your document, starting with Arabic numeral 1 and going through. And then when you're done in the PDF process, if you come on campus, you may have this ability, but certainly every campus computer does. You just merge those 2 documents together, easy peasy. When you just take both Word documents, put them in Adobe, and it merges them together. That's the easy way to do that, and it doesn't result in a half an hour of fiddling with the section breaks and trying to figure it out. Don't forget to put your page numbers in. That's very helpful. You can format those at the top. So those are some simple formatting things that you want to do right now. Okay, so let's look at some other ways that we can help you with formatting. All right, so the title page. So if you're on, so if we're just showing you, we just clicked on formatting and then we picked section specific. And so now we've picked the title page. And as you can see here, we have 2, we explain it to you with the formatting. And then at the top, we have 2 visual examples. One, if it's a single degree, and one is a degree with a concentration. So here you go, bingo, it pops up on your screen. Here's what it tells you to do. Okay, it spells it all out for you. I love it. You know, it says 1 inch. So, okay, you can go into your margins and set 1-inch margins around everything. Okay, so that means that the typing is going to start within the dotted line things. To add another inch, it's usually just 3 carriage returns, 3 enters. Okay, you can put the ruler on your page, but usually 3 enters will do it. So it says skip an inch before the title. Okay, then it tells you exactly what to type. Exactly, this is what you type in. And then it says skip 3 lines. You do by, skip 3 lines, put your name. Okay, so follow this example. The question we always get is how come there's no template? The reason why there's no template is because everybody's committee has different numbers of people on it. People's titles are different lengths, and you have some people have 4 people on their committee. If it's a thesis, some people have 3. Some people have a 3-line title. Some people have a 1-line title. So there's just no way for us to format it as a one-size-fits-all. So there is no template. I will urge you to not use some of the things in Word that are templates. I especially wouldn't use the table of contents in Word. It doesn't format it the way that we're looking for. And so I can't tell you how many times I've had students just start from scratch and retype their table of contents. So it doesn't work well, okay? I don't know why it doesn't work well, but it doesn't. So please, you know, follow these directions. It's super important. This front material, you have the opportunity to turn it in I think our deadline's soon, October sometime, for us to look it over. Most of our Suggestions for improving the formatting of your dissertation or thesis are going to come in the front pages. Okay, so there's an example there. All right, the submission deadlines. Okay, so for the next 3 semesters, this is already up there. So let's talk about this. We're talking fall 2021. Okay, so if you're doing a thesis, it's due on October 29th. That's good, then you can have a good time for Halloween. Turn it in and then you can go relax. Dissertation is due November 12th. Okay, these deadlines are really important. Now let's think about student behavior first. When do you think most of the people turn in their dissertation or thesis? September 15th? October 1st? October 29th, okay? In probably on the 27th of October, we may have 15 to 20 theses and dissertations that have been submitted. On the 29th, we will get over 100. So, and then on November 12th, we'll get another 100. We do anywhere from 180 to 230 thesis and dissertations each semester. It takes us about 45 minutes to an hour to review the document the first time. So if you submit it on the 29th and 100 other people did, it's going to be longer than a week for us to get to it. Okay, so anything that you can do is fine, but I just want to, we'll get them done. Hear me loud and clear on this. If you submit your ETD on time, you are guaranteed to graduate in fall 2021. Guaranteed. We may not get your thing back to you till November 11th or 12th for some revisions, but if you're submitted it on the 29th, but you are guaranteed to graduate. Grandma can come to the commencement service. You can make all your plans. As soon as you submit your ETD to us, you are good to go for the semester, provided you eventually make all of the edits that we ask. And we have to have those done before commencement. So what happens a lot of times is we'll send the edits back and students will say, oh, I'll do it later. And then, so we sent the thesis back to them on October 15th, and then on December 7th, they submit it for the first time for the revision. So be really prompt in getting those revisions back. And the closer it gets to, our goal is to have everything done the Friday before commencement on Saturday. So that's probably 13th or something in December. I don't have the dates in front of me, but something like that. We try to get it done by then. We want you to be totally done by commencement, but that is dependent upon you as much as it is us. We're limited by the number of people that have been turned it in late, but when you get our corrections, the faster you get them done, the faster this process is over. We're not asking for superfluous things. We're looking for consistency. So please remember those dates. Now there's something I want you to think about in terms of these dates, okay? October 29th, if you're a thesis student. So does that mean you have your defense on October 28th? No. Okay, you got to give yourself time. Your committee may want you to make some changes. Then they have to read the document again and approve it. We cannot approve your ETD until it is the final copy. So here's what I suggest. You should have your defense no later than 1 week before the deadline, and that's only if your committee says okay. Okay, so that would be the 22nd. So that means that October 22nd would be the drop dead deadline for a defense. And that's only if your faculty are nice enough, you make the corrections over the weekend, they read them on Monday, and okay, it's not leaving a lot of time. I would really suggest 2 weeks. If you take 14, October 15th would really be the latest I would have a defense. Now that's starting to get early. When do you give your thesis or dissertation to your committee member? Okay, I give them 2 weeks to read it. That's the general polite thing to do. Okay, now think about it. So now you're going back 28 days. That means October 1 you should be getting your thesis or dissertation in its final format to your committee for review. You want to get it to the committee early. Now you can negotiate with your committee and see how much time they need to read it. But please remember, most committee members are like me. If you get it to me on the 1st and the defense is on the 15th, when am I going to read it? October 14th, okay? I'm just like you guys. I'm going to do it late. But you don't want it, see, you're thinking, well, I'll just give it to you on the 13th. Oh, no, 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 no. Don't do that, because in my world, I'm always like, well, I'll read a chapter a night prior to the defense. Never works that way, but that's my plan. You get it to me late and I have to stay up all night or work late into the night to get ready for the defense the next day. Who am I mad at? Am I mad at me? Nope. If you submitted it late, I'm thinking, wow, why did he submit it so late? That wasn't fair to me. You know, now I'm not going to say anything, but you know, people, that's how people are, you know, I mean, it's like, but if I wait till the last minute and I have to stay up late because I didn't do it early, I'm mad at myself. Okay. I'm like, oh, you should have done this earlier. So think about that. The same holds for that November 12th date. So work it out with your major professor. If they say different dates than I do, that's fine. The only dates that I am going to enforce are October 29th or November 12th. Okay, those are the dates that we have determined after many years are the best for us to get things done in a timely fashion. Talk to your major professor. Colleges have different dates, different procedures, paperwork that has to be turned in, committee forms have to be checked and whatever. So make sure that you're doing everything that the committee wants you to do so that you won't have any troubles in the semester. Okay? All right, so what are we going to do? We've got to register for the ETD process, okay? And here's what that entails. First, you have to be registered in at least 2 hours of thesis or dissertation during the semester in which you submit your ETD. Why do I have to be registered for 2 hours? Here's how it works. If you've been taking thesis or dissertation for a couple of semesters, you've noticed that you get a Z grade. A Z grade. What happens is I'm the only person that can change that Z to an S. It's not your major professor. They pass you on the defense, but I changed the Z grade to an S in the last semester. I communicate directly with the registrar's office. So once I find out that you've finished all the corrections, I send an email over to the registrar's office and they change the Z in your final semester only to an S. Why don't they change the other ones? Z means continuing progress. So I can't give you an S because you didn't finish it in that semester. I can only give you an S in the semester in which you finish it. So that's what the 2 credits are. That's a university policy. 2 credits is the minimum that you can apply, you can take in a semester. So you have to be registered in 2 credits so I can change your grade so that your degree can be certified by the registrar's office and you get a diploma. Okay, now remember, I told you that if you submit your ETD on time, me changing that to an S is a given. I'm going to do it as long as you make the edits that we ask you to make in a timely fashion. Okay, so there's nothing scary about this. It's just really important. So the ETD process registration, the first thing it does is it checks to make sure you're registered. So when you do that, you'll get a message or you'll hear from us going, oh, you need to go in and register for 2 credits. You're like, when would that happen? Happens all the time. Okay, so we want to make sure we're doing everything in our power to make sure that you graduate on time. That's what we care about. We want you to graduate in the semester in which you submit your ETD. We're going to do everything we can to make that happen. And that's one thing. Okay, so you need to make sure that you've registered for thesis or dissertation this semester. It's not too late. If you haven't done that, it's a late add petition. It'll go in, you'll have to pay for the credits. Okay, The next thing you need to do, which is probably this week or next, I'm not quite sure, check with your department, you have to apply for graduation through your OASIS account, okay? And you're going to complete an exit survey, university exit survey at this time. You apply for graduation. What does that mean? That tells the registrar's office, hey, at the end of this semester, I want you to look at my transcript, certify my degree, so I get a diploma in December. Well, it'll actually be January, but you get what I'm saying, okay? So that's different. So you have to be registered, have to be an active student to graduate. Then you have to apply for graduation. Then I'm telling you, you got to apply for ETD, process registration. But why all these registrations? Okay, here's why. The ETD process registration tells me and Ashley, I'm coming. I'm going to submit something to you this semester. We don't see the applied for graduation information. FYI, I am working on this to minimize the registrations, but not yet. Okay, so you got to do it. So that tells me and Ashley, hey, I'm going to submit my ETD this semester. And we're like, great. Another reason to do it, and this is particularly true for the PhD students, that form asks for the title of your dissertation and who's your major professor. That information is only stored in your head and on a paper form over in your college, your committee form, and many of those don't have the title on it, okay? So that information is important to me. Why? I prepare the commencement program. How do I do that? I use the information that you put into the ETD process registration to fill out what I need for the commencement program. So if you want your name in the commencement program, okay, well, I'm not going to walk, I don't care. Well, it's still online. The commencement program is available online. You can see your name in it there. And you can request a copy be mailed to you from the Office of Commencement, and they have copies over in the bookstore after the commencement ceremonies. So if you want your name in that program, you got to register for ETD, and it has to be by the deadline, not November 13th, November 12th. Why? Because I have to download it on the 12th and get it over to the commencement office as fast as I can. So after that date, once it goes to the commencement office, it cannot be added because they have to send it out to the printers. So November 12th is the drop dead deadline if you want your name in the program. If you register on the 13th, your name will not be in the program. It's not going to happen. There's nothing I can do about it because it's all that file has already been sent off to the printer. Okay, so please register for ETD. And you know, I've noticed over the years people haven't put their titles of their dissertation in. They haven't bothered to put their major professors. They don't put their degrees. That just makes your listing look weird because that's where I get the information from. I don't have access to go into Banner and find all of it. Okay. So please take some time and fill out the ETD process registration appropriately. Makes my job easier. It'll make you look really cool in the program, okay? So that's what that's for. The next registration is if you actually want to walk across the stage. They're calling that commencement, okay? So you have to register for that. Why? Well, we got to know how many people are coming. And you go in and register, and what we do is prepare a card for you so that when you show up at the commencement, I give you that card and it has all your information on it. You pass that card to the person on the stage who's reading the names, okay? So that's what the commencement registration is about. Now, if you do forget to register for commencement, it's not a crisis. You can show up and I have blank cards, but we do need to know because it has to do with number of seats, and especially in this COVID era, we are planning for socially distanced. So I would plan on a commencement ceremony very much like we had in August, and it will be socially distanced. I have not heard anything further. You'll hear as soon as I do, but I would plan for that. So it will happen. and we're going to try to do it face-to-face if at all possible, which I think it will be. So that's why you have to register for dissertation hours, apply to graduate, do the ETD process registration, and register for commencement. Now here's the good thing. You know, if you have to add your thesis or dissertation hours, you got to get with your major professor. But for the other 3 registrations, you can go home and do them tonight. In fact, I encourage you to go home and do them tonight. Just get it done. Well, what happens if I don't graduate at the end of the semester? Nothing. Nothing will happen. And you'll have to register again next semester, because what happens is these things are open for 1 semester. Once commencement happens, they erase everything and they open them up for the next semester. So there's no penalty for not finishing. We hope you do, but if you don't, no problem. Just register again next semester, okay? So please, this is really important. This is why we love to have you turn in your front pages so we can check and say, hey, did you register for ETD registration? And when you actually turn in your certificate of approval package, which we'll talk about again, we also check it at that point. Because here's the thing, if you're not registered for thesis or dissertation, you cannot graduate this semester. So it's really important for us to have these registrations completed. I know you're thinking I'm being dramatic. It's more the fact that we have so many students that don't do the registrations, and we check out, follow after them, try to get it done. We really would appreciate your attention to these matters as soon as possible. There's no penalty for registering and not completing it, not completing the process. There's a significant penalty for not completing the registrations. We need you to do them. All right, so after we do the registration, we have this new thing. It's not even new anymore. It's been a year, I guess, now. But we have these initial pages review. And I encourage you to do this. Actually, what day are they due? You want to put it in the chat? It's in October sometime. We can't, oh, it's 15th. It's right there on the slide. Just have to read, don't I? 5 p.m. on the 15th, so that's fine. So the most things that we're going to ask you, they're not errors, the things that we're going to ask you to fix are usually in these initial pages. What do I mean? Those are all those Roman numeral pages. Your table of contents, your acknowledgments, your dedication, your table of figures, table of tables, the title page. We want you to submit those pages to us because those are the ones that have the most intense formatting on them. So we can help you format them and get it ready to make it easier. So it will make your next review faster. So if you can if you don't have to, this is optional, but you have the opportunity to submit a rough draft by 5 p.m. on October 15th. If it comes in on the 16th, again, we won't review it because it's not a mandatory process. And at that point, we need to be shifting over to reviewing the actual theses and dissertations that have been submitted. But if you get a chance, go ahead and submit it. Well, I don't know what the writing is going to be on it. I don't know what my abstract is. Doesn't matter. Go ahead and go Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse, Mickey Mouse. Just copy a page from your homework and stick it on there. We're not reading it. We're only looking at the format. Okay, so it doesn't matter what the text is. Okay, just do it. Table of contents. Just show us how many headings you're going to have, and we'll help you format it. So it's real easy to do the table of contents. I can type up a 2-page table of contents in about 15-20 minutes if it's formatted correctly. Okay, so that's what it's all about. I urge you to do it. We'll help you the best that we can. We'll talk later about how to get some individual help, but please do that. So how do you do this? Okay. Make sure you register online with ETD. I'm going to keep driving that home because that's the one thing most people forget. So let's do that. You can find the formatting guidelines on the page, the web page where I showed you. Go ahead. We're only looking at those beginning pages, just the beginning pages. Okay. Submit those to us as a PDF. And then we have a Microsoft form. And you just go to click on that and you're going to submit it right up there. Fill out some information, give us an email that you check, okay? You don't have to use your USF email. It's good if you do, but if you use your Gmail more often, whatever you do, remember which email you used and check it, okay? Because if you submit something to us, you will hear back from us. If you don't hear back from us, excuse me, let me know. So you should get a response on this within 3 to 5 business days. It does take a little bit of time. Everybody's working on some other things as well. So it's not just, I don't have somebody sitting here waiting for you to submit this. They're doing it in addition to their other daily duties. So we'll get it done quickly, but it really, I think, will help, and it will speed it through on the other end. So usually, many of you are preparing for your, defense, and so, submit this in, spend a little bit of time, but remember, it doesn't have to be the exact text that you turn into us. We're only looking at the formatting. We're not reading the text, okay? So that's something I hope that you'll take advantage of. We're just trying to help. All right, so now here's some resources, okay? Statistics Solutions, I got this email last semester, and it's pretty cool. I was impressed. They have free presentations that help you with the various challenges that are involved in thesis and dissertation projects, okay? They're about 30 to 45 minutes, you can move the little bar, but it has a mentor that's giving you information on how to do this. A lot of them are live. There'll be a Q&A session. And so some of the topics, and this was in the May webinars, okay, but mastering your lit review. It gives you some insight on how to do your lit review. Confidently present your quantitative results chapter, telling you how to write the results sections. SPSS data cleaning and management, your statistics. How do you get rid of some of the superfluous data so that you can focus on the data that you want to analyze? Now, again, this is not, it's just an advertisement. I just think it looks good. I'm not paid. You may have to pay for some of these things. Some of them are free. Most of them are paid for. It's totally up to you. I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm just saying that it is an option for you, okay? So I just wanted to let you know. The library also has some nice professional development series going on this year, and we do professional development on a lot of these topics as well. So come to our website and look at over on the left-hand side at the bottom. It has all of the upcoming events for the month, and you'll see them in there. Okay, so let's turn into how we submit our ETD, okay? Now, this is ironic, okay? But we have had an increasing number of students submit the paperwork and never submit their thesis or dissertation, surprisingly, and then come back to us 6 months later and say, where's my diploma? And our response is, where's your thesis or dissertation? We never received it. So please understand that we must receive a PDF version of your dissertation. So that's going to be the end of this process. But I think because we're not on campus and you're not getting to run into your friends as much, that we've had 5 or 6 people forget to submit their ETDs. And so if we don't get something, we have no way of following up with you. The ETD registration, we have 25 to 40 people every semester that register and do not finish. So we can't tell by the ETD registration who should be submitting. We can't tell. It's just not obvious to us. And we're so busy because everybody submits so late that we just don't have time to go track down all of the ones that are there that didn't come in yet. Okay, so please be on top of it, okay? What do you need to do? Well, first we need your certificate of approval, okay? I'd urge you to get it typed up before the defense. It's a lot easier now. I've had my students take the certificate of approval to the defense because very often my committee members on my students' theses and dissertations, the committee's happy to sign while they're sitting there, and then they say, we'll just trust Dr. Barr to make sure the rest of it's okay. So, have that form ready. You can use DocuSign to do it, so that makes life so much easier. So you can use DocuSign. But please remember that the final ETD copy is, you defend the thesis and dissertation, but you have to make all of the committee requested revisions, and that has to be approved by your committee. Sometimes it's just your major professor, sometimes it's the whole committee, okay? So we don't want to see your ETD until it's the absolute final version, okay? please check with your colleges. All colleges do this different, but they may have a defense form that you need to fill out. And sometimes you have to set up a meeting time, so you have to advertise that, and then there's a form, a successful defense form, and people will sign off on this success. That means that you passed your defense. That is not the certificate of approval that I'm talking about. The certificate of approval is saying this is the final written version, okay? So here's what it looks like. Please be sure to type it. All of our forms are fillable forms. You shouldn't have any problem. You should be able to type right into them, and then you can save it, save as PDF, and submit it to us, okay? So I want you to read these things carefully. We'll be talking about all of them, but there is an embargo statement. We're going to talk about that. Copyright permissions, photo and subject release. We're getting a lot of photos. You need permission to show photos. And then your IRB or IACUC approvals, okay? So all of that's on this form. This form is 2 pages long. And so it's all on there. Make sure you read it carefully, but this is the certificate of approval form. That's page 1. Here's page 2. Again, you got to fill in the information at the top, and this is where all of your committee members will sign, okay? All colleges do this differently. Some of them have an associate dean sign. And some of them have the program director, so definitely check with your major professor as to which one must sign and date the approval, okay? And then the thing at the bottom is just for us. So this is a very important form. We will not even look at your ETD until this form is submitted to us, okay? This form is very important. It goes in your permanent record. You've got to have this form, okay? But it's only after everything is done. So again, the program director is in College of Behavioral and Community Sciences and Arts and Sciences, the associate dean in all other colleges, okay? And it's on the form. All right, so that's your certificate of approval. But wait, that's not all, okay? We need a plagiarism check, okay? Please, please, please do not do this until you have the absolute the absolute final. There's nothing else ever going to change on this version of your ETD, okay? Please don't run it on Monday when you're waiting for your committee to get back to you and they make a few minor changes and then you want to submit it on Friday. No, no, no. I need it to be the last thing that you do before you submit your ETD. If you submit it early, oh goodness, you know, turn it in, holds on to copies, and so your thing will come back 100% plagiarized. When in fact it's not, you just got nervous and decided to turn it in early, okay? So be careful, all right? Now, here's the well-kept secret on this. Your faculty member is going to forget how to do it. Let me go back to the other slide. They have to set up the assignment in Canvas. So you guys may have to let them know. What do you mean? What are you talking about? Everybody, remember we said the ETD process says you have to register for 2 hours of thesis or dissertation. Because you did that, you have a Canvas course called Thesis or Dissertation. Your major professor goes into that Canvas course and sets up an assignment and clicks the Turn It In button so that when you can submit the assignment and then they can approve the plagiarism check, okay? So your major professor does this. 2 seconds. No, we can't get it set up in Canvas to do this automatically every semester in only the thesis and dissertation courses. Unfortunately, Canvas doesn't work that way. So the only way to get this done is every semester people have to go in and put that in to your thesis or dissertation course. I get that question all the time. We've asked, it's just not possible. It would then put a turn it in assignment for thesis or dissertation in every single Canvas course, including the freshman courses. So we just can't do that, okay? So what you do, so you're going to go ahead, you submit the assignment, and you're going to run the plagiarism check. Now, I can't tell you how long that's going to take. It could take 10, 15 minutes, could take an hour. Some students have told me it's taken overnight. So please don't wait till 4:45 on the day that it's due at 5 p.m. and run your plagiarism check. Okay, you got to leave a little time in there because the way this works is the plagiarism check is going to pop up and you and your professor need to look it over, and we'll talk about that in a minute, okay? But I want to tell you some tricks to make it go faster, okay? For whatever reason, Turnitin likes a doc file, DOC, better than a DOCX. So what do you do? What do you do? Okay, you've got this file, 99% of the time it's a DOCX anyway. You can go and save as, and you can choose a doc file, okay? So what you want to do is you have this perfect version. It's the perfect version of my thesis and dissertation. Make a copy of it. Put the perfect version over here. Take this copy, okay? Save it as a doc file. Some other things, take out your figures or any images. That just makes the file bigger, okay? And it can't tell you that the image is copyrighted or not, so it doesn't matter. So take those things out. If your file is over 20 megabytes, okay, if it's over 20 megabytes or less or more than 400 pages, now most of you are gasping, 400 pages, yeah, don't worry about it, you probably don't have a 400 page one, but that's a very big file. What you can do to make that file smaller is shrink the text down to 2 or 3 point font. We encourage you to use 11 or 12 point font. I don't care which font. Don't use a goofy one, but you know, Calibri, Arial, Times New Roman, those are good. But if you make it a 2 or 3 point font, it's much faster. It makes the file smaller. So those are some suggestions. Okay, so now what happens after this plagiarism check is run? You and your professor need to sit down and look at it. Now, please understand that Turnitin is not really a plagiarism checker. There aren't really many plagiarism checkers out there. It matches similar text. So if you have 2 references in the same order that somebody else that wrote a journal article and happened to have those 2 references and they followed each other, you're going to get that picked up as plagiarism. When it's not, it's just a fluke, okay? You did that, okay? So what happens is you've got to go in and look at the plagiarism report, okay? Now, the first question I always get is, well, what's the right percentage? What's the right percentage? Don't care. It's a similarity index. You know, if you turned in chapter 1 for class assignment in a course a year ago and turned in chapter 2 for a course assignment, you know, 5 months ago, those may show up as plagiarized if you had to run it through Turnitin. Were they plagiarized? No. You were absolutely allowed to turn that into your class. That's what the purpose of the class was. So you have to go in and look at it, okay? So what it does, you can see on the left, it highlights the areas and then it listed on the right, and notice this one has 38% plagiarized. I don't know, that's probably okay. I got to go in and look at what the plagiarism is. You know, it comes over here on the right, this person has a 13% similarity index, but notice that the purple one at the bottom, 1% of it came from that article. That might be plagiarized. I don't know, you have to go look at it in the text. This top one, which says submitted to Kennesaw State University, it says 3%. That may have been the person's paper that they were doing at Kennesaw State University. You see what I'm saying? You can't just look at the numbers. You have to look at the specific instances that are highlighted. And so you and your major professor sit down and determine whether or not that's plagiarized, okay? So once you finish that and everything looks okay, then all you have to do is just send the first page. I just want to see the percentage. I just want one page, just one page with the percentage on it, okay? Just cut that out, copy and paste it, whatever you want to do, put that in a document, and you're going to turn that in with your certificate of approval, okay? So you're going to turn that in with your certificate of approval, okay? So what happens? Here's what we need to do. You have a certificate of approval packet. So when it's time, when you want to turn in your ETD, you got to do a couple of things. Number one, your certificate of approval form, the first page of your plagiarism report, and if you're a doctoral student, you need to do the survey of earned doctorates, and it will give you a completion certificate. We need that certificate. So if you're a master's student, you only need the certificate of approval and the plagiarism report. If you're a PhD student, you need the certificate of approval, the plagiarism report, and the certificate of completion from the SED, Survey of Earned Doctorates survey, okay? You submit those documents as one PDF, okay? If it's incomplete, it'll come right back to you. We will look at it and go incomplete and email it right back to you. Again, we have a Microsoft form to do that. I love these forms because it stores them for us in a very safe location, okay? So if you have any problems, you can email us, but please submit it. We're going to check it. And as part of that process, we also check to make sure you've registered for ETD. We want to make sure that it's smooth sailing from here on out. So when we get all of those 4 things done, well, two if you're a master's thesis, 3 if it's a dissertation, plus the ETD registration, once all of those things are completed, then we'll look at the ETD that you submitted. So please don't forget, you submit this paperwork, you still got to go to ProQuest, which we're going to talk about next, and submit your document. Please don't forget to submit your document. Now that we're back on campus, if you're a DBA, Michelle Walpole takes care of all of this for you and brings it over to us. Some departments do it all for us. Okay, it will go with that. And that's fine. They can do that, and we do get it. Okay, so we're working with those programs. That's what that last note is about. Okay, and it'll go back to the department if that's the case. I did notice, I'm having a hard time watching the chat and talking today, but I did notice somebody saying that, do we get an email? Okay, yeah, guess what you do? They go to spam. Okay, the form sends out an automatic response. And I find them about 50% of the time in somebody's spam. We use a lot of these forms for all the competitions and things that I run on campus. We do try to email you back, but this is an automatic email. So the first thing you need to do is check your spam and see if you got anything back on it, okay? Otherwise, you can ask us. It takes us, we just get so busy once this process gets going. It's really hard for us to keep checking, and we use the forms online because it generates a spreadsheet for us and we can find stuff, but it really is a lot of monitoring. So we're happy to answer that question. I didn't say we won't answer it. It just may take us a little longer than you wish. All right, so that's how you submit the paperwork. Let's talk about submitting that ETD. And so I love it. Do not forget to submit to ProQuest, okay? So you submit your paperwork and you submit it to ProQuest, the actual ETD, okay? So, gotta do it. All of these links are on our site under the quick links. So if you go to the ETD site, it has quick links. I click on that site at least once a week, and that's where you do it, okay? So what you have to do is you gotta make sure that you've done all the formatting right, that your committee has approved this, you can run the plagiarism check. It's gotta be a PDF. Okay, so our office only deals with PDFs. So that goes back to that Google Docs comment. Totally fine if you want to do it in Google Docs. I don't have a problem with that. We can't accept a Google Docs. How do you like that? There you go. Google Docs submission. It has to be a PDF. So the way to do that is to download the Google Docs to a Word document. It's very easy to do. I do it all the time. And then you submit it to us. Okay, so PDF, it has to be the final committee approved version. Okay, we do not do any review until all paperwork is turned in. That means ETD registration, a PDF copy of your ETD is submitted to ProQuest, and we get your packet, your certificate of approval packet. Okay, at that point in time, we will then start checking it. Otherwise, it will just sit over in our office till that's all completed. Okay, next slide. So poor Ashley's got, there you go. So now here's where you got to read, okay? So you have to create a ProQuest account. What happens is that all dissertations and theses are stored actually in ProQuest and in Digital Commons. They changed the word from Scholar Commons to Digital Commons. Okay, the reason why we use ProQuest, it's totally free to us. ProQuest accepts all these documents, helps us with a workflow so we can send things back and forth with you. Emails do come out of here. Okay, so you know what's going on. But then they get to keep a copy of it over there as well. Okay, so it shows up in 2 places, and that's good for you because that puts it in Google Scholar and gets your work out there. Okay, so please make sure you set up a ProQuest account. Okay, so you go to the ProQuest ETD Administrator website and click on the red button at the bottom. Sign up and get started. Okay, and then you're going to create a new student account. Again, they will send you an email. Let me drink some water. Please be sure that you use an email that you check frequently. Don't just put your USF email. If you don't ever check it, it's not going to help you. We will communicate with you through whatever email you put in here, okay? So make sure you check it often. Okay, so then what happens? You're going to have to go through a series of screens, okay? And these screens are going to ask a lot of questions. So we need the next slide. All right. And so the first one is your publishing options, okay? So you have 2 choices. One, traditional publishing, as my kids would say, $0.00. That one is free. Or you can request Open Access Plus, and that's $95. Okay, why don't I want you to check that button? Because you're already getting open access, okay? Digital Commons makes it open access, ProQuest is open access, and those 2 sites are picked up by just about everybody on their search engines. So you're paying $95 to get some very, very obscure sites, okay? You're really paying for something you're already getting from us. It's totally up to you. Your major professor wants you to do it, fine. If you want to show up in that, journal from the University of Czechoslovakia in a very small town in Czechoslovakia that only goes out to their students, okay, fine. You can pay for it, but you don't have to. I'm sorry, my throat is so dry. All of the major search engines do work through ProQuest. People will find your thesis or dissertation, okay? So I would check no to that. The next option is embargo, okay? This is really important. And I never know how to answer your questions on this because this is really an agreement between you and your faculty member, okay? What embargo means is that I'm going to hold back the publication of this thesis or dissertation for a year so that it can be printed in other venues, other journals or whatever, okay? So when you choose the embargo option, excuse me, it means that your paper will not be visible for a year, 1 year, okay? And that gives you more time to go after patents. There's some classified information that you need to get declassified. If you want to get it published in certain journals or a book, you have to be very careful when you select this option because you only have one shot to do it, and this is it, okay? Once you make this decision, it is very difficult to change. Very, very, very difficult to change, okay? So the questions are, yes, it says, do you want your work available in ProQuest as soon as it's published? If you say yes, it will appear at the beginning of the next semester, okay? It will appear, you will start to see it in Google Scholar, okay? That means immediate worldwide access, no embargo. Now, honestly, I have my students do that 95% of the time because their thesis, I am not going to take that document and submit it for an article. It's not written like that, okay? As long as it's not verbatim, you don't need the embargo. Everybody, most journals take a thesis or dissertation. You should check with the journal that you want to publish in. I go in, I totally change the lit review. I use portions of the method, portions of the results. I changed the discussion. It's a totally different document, although it may, it covers the same topic. That's not a problem with the people that I publish with. Other publishers are getting pickier about that. So if you're in the science areas, health sciences and stuff, you may want to embargo it for 1 year. So you're going to check no, okay? Then you get it out. And you need to get it out quickly. Actually, it's an academic research integrity issue if you don't, okay? You don't sit on a journal article for 5 years and then say, oh, now I want to set it out. No. If it's important enough to embargo, you need to get it out immediately, okay? So you need to get it done. So if you want to protect your rights on the article, then you should pick the no button. I urge you, it's getting tougher because of the prevalence of open access publishing. Other journals are getting tougher on this. So you need to talk with your major professor and you all decide. But remember, you got to have that discussion before you get here, okay? This is a very important question and it is almost impossible to change it after you make that decision, okay? Because it's logged over in ProQuest. It's not in my control, okay? So it's over in ProQuest. Once something has been released for even a day, it can never be embargoed again. I've gotten some requests over the last year. This article's been out for 5 years. I want you to embargo it now because I want to publish it. That ship has sailed. I can't do it, okay? So in other words, that's a very important question. Have a conversation with your major professor. So the next question, sorry, my office is about 14 degrees. I'm sorry, that's what's making me cough so much. Copyright, okay? These are optional services and they do cost you something. So the first one is you want to register for a copyright. Oh, I want a copyright. That's important. They'll be happy to do it for you for $55, but if you do it on your own, it's $35. And there's the website to go do it. But honestly, you already have a copyright from the university because you're going to put it on your title page. So you don't need that. Okay, it's not that important. Check with your major professor, but I believe your work is already sufficiently copyrighted by the University of South Florida. The next question is getting hardbound copies. Okay, ProQuest is happy to do that for you. It's quite expensive. I'm talking about like $200 for each one that you want done. Okay, so if you want to give one to your grandmother and your mother, you're talking, it's a hefty price. Okay, this is binding a book. Books are not as popular these days, things are online. So, but you can do it. They're happy to do it for you. I will tell you that I have heard more bad things than good things about ProQuest doing this from the students. Many of them, their titles were crooked and the print wasn't done well and it just wasn't done well. So I wouldn't recommend using ProQuest for the binding. So you can do it on your own, but please be very careful when you do it, okay? Google it. I don't have any suggestions. You have to Google it. You can look at online printing and binding. Just make sure that whoever you're dealing with is you're only having them print and bind it. You're not selling it to them so they can turn it into a book and make money off of it. In other words, you don't want to lose the copyright on your work, okay? So some of the ones online are actually small book companies that are trying to get your work so that they can profit off of it. So be very careful when you do that. Just make sure that they're printing and binding it, not publishing it, okay? You don't want them to do that. So I would say no to both of those, but it's totally up to you. And so what is it going to cost to use ProQuest? Okay, so there's no fees for the traditional publishing. So as long as you don't select the copyright, the open access, or order any bound copies, you don't owe anything. It's totally free to you, okay? So read the questions carefully. You are totally fine. Most students go the $0 route, so it's totally up to you, okay? So now that you've submitted it, now we have your certificate of approval packet, you've registered for ETD, and we have your ETD in ProQuest. Now we're ready to look at it. We will not look at it before all of that is done, okay? Now, in general, it's going to take us 5 to 10 days to review your ETD, okay? But that is dependent on when it's submitted. If you submit it on the due date, I would expect at least 10 to 14 days for us to get back to you, okay? Because like I told you, it takes about 45 minutes to do the thesis the first time through, okay? So, you do that, you do the math on that, and I've only got Ashley, so she's only going to do 8 to 10 a day. You gotta consider her eyes and stuff like that, okay? So I'm just telling you that's what's happening. The earlier in the semester you turn it in, the faster it will be turned around, okay? But I do understand. I am not saying it's not always your fault. Faculty are slow. I totally get it, okay? So what's going to happen? We're going to go through and review it, okay? I'm going to tell you right now, 99.9999999% of the theses or dissertations come back at least one time for a few little edits, okay? So please just go ahead and submit it into ProQuest. It's absolutely normal for it to come back once. We did have somebody go through recently. It was perfect. That's very unusual. They must have read the website extensively. So a lot of students will email, will you look at it before I submit it? No, just please go ahead, because we're so busy that we don't even have time to look at it quickly because we want to get the other ones done. So please go ahead and submit it. I promise it's a painless process. We'll point out a few things for you to change. And if you don't have anything to change, yay, but most people have one revision and they're done, okay? So if it needs revision, you're going to get an email requesting, telling you what the revisions are. You're going to have to go into your ProQuest account. So you're going to get an email that's going to tell you to go to your ProQuest account. You're going to see a new PDF version in there, and there will be annotations on it, okay? So she'll tell you, oh, your first level headings are not formatted correctly, and she'll even be more specific than that, okay? Now, guess what? She's not going to do that on every single first order heading. She'd be there all night, okay? So if she tells you a comment that happens other times in your thesis or dissertation, you got to fix those too. Sometimes people only fix the comments on the first 2 pages. It's like, all of your headings are wrong, so they fix it on that page and turn it back in. Guess what? It comes back and she goes to the next page and say these headings are still wrong, okay? So we only make the comment once. We don't find all of them. That's up to you, okay? Now, I will tell you that the best thing to do is when you get this PDF back, do not try to make the edits on the PDF. I'm sorry, that's grief and tears, and it is so hard to edit a PDF because if it flips over to the next page, it doesn't do it. It's a mess. So what you need to do is you've got this annotative PDF, go get your Word document, that one that we saved over here, that perfect one, make your edits on the Word document, PDF the Word document, and you're going to resubmit it as a resubmission, okay? So don't edit your PDF, but do try to follow all of the comments and make sure that you're consistent all the way through your document. When you're done, upload the revised PDF to ProQuest as a revision. Do not do a new submission. That kind of messes us up. We'll lose you in the translation. Okay, we'll find you, but we'll lose you in the translation at first, okay? You're going to have to click through and confirm everything again, okay? But use the revision process. We'll review this revised PDF and you'll get another email through ProQuest. You might have a few more revisions or you'll get it saying you're done. Okay, so please know, I often hear students say, oh, I did it one time and then they found new things the second time. That's not true. we do a lot of checks. We might find something new that we missed last time, but only if it's egregious, okay? What the problem typically is we asked you to fix the headings and you only fixed them in chapter 1 and you didn't fix them in chapters 2, 3, 4, and 5, okay? So when somebody says we found something new, more times than not, it's just that you just didn't finish all of the edits all the way through and we caught the same issue the second time through, okay? Trust me, think about it from our perspective. Why would Ashley want to review this 5 times? Okay, she wants to see it done. We want to see them done just as much as you want to see it done. Okay, so we're not nitpicking. We're looking for consistency. We have a very broad interpretation of what's acceptable. Okay, so please work with us. We're happy to happy to work with you. Okay, so after the review process, you should get a lovely little email saying congratulations, it throws confetti and all this stuff. Anyway, all right, so how much does all of this cost? Okay, so when you submit an ETD, there is an extra, this is a fee, okay, it doesn't come prior. At the university, nobody pays for this except students that are doing ETDs, okay, so that's why it's at the end. We're going to charge you a fee based on the amount of processing that we had to do. This fee will appear in your OASIS account as the graduate manuscript processing fee. So you're going to have to go in and pay that fee, or else your diploma and your transcript will not be released at the end of the semester, okay? Now we're only going to give fees to students who have finished the entire submission process, okay? So when Ashley approves your thesis or dissertation, she has another spreadsheet where she goes in and does the fees. I have a person that puts the fees into OASIS, okay? So what are those fees? All right, if you submit 2 weeks prior to the deadline, so the 29th of October for a master's thesis, if you submit it by 5 p.m. on the 16th, you only have to pay $75. But if you submit it on the 17th, you're going to have to pay $100. Okay, so less than 2 weeks before. So the standard fee is $100. There's a $25 rebate if you get it in early. Okay, for those of you that have multiple revisions or take really long time, to do these things, there's an extra $25. So the highest fee you can be charged is $125, but most of you will be charged $100, and if you're early, $75. Let me make this clear. I had a student one time that was just having a real hard time formatting, and they said, look, I'm willing to pay the $25, let Ashley do it. That's not what that means, okay? That's not what that means, okay? We do not do the formatting for you. We don't have time. We've got 230 of these to process in basically 30 days. Okay, so it's a lot of going back. It's kind of tense. Poor Ashley, every time I talk to her, I'm like, numbers, tell me how's it going? Do I need help? Okay. So you can use some external people to format. Be super careful. There are people out there that have charged $1,000 to format a dissertation. That's ridiculous. If your formatter starts saying, well, ETD people don't know what they're talking about. That's not how you do this. Bye. Doesn't matter if they don't like what we do, we're sticking to what we do. Okay, this is the way it's done. This is the way we want it. So you don't want to use that person. Okay, so this is what I'm saying. Start formatting earlier. It's just not that problem. So, okay, we have any MFAs in the group? No? Okay. If so, shoot Ashley an email. She's an MFA, so she knows. It's just a slightly shorter process. Yours don't get published because you're preparing books of poetry and short stories. Okay, now I've been watching the chat. Now we're getting into what you want me to talk about, okay? Copyright, previously published materials, okay? The first thing I'm going to say is Lietta Schmidt at the bottom. She is amazing. She is a librarian, a copyright librarian. She will help you. She will send you an email that tells you exactly what to do. She will help you find it. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate. Give her some time. It takes a day or two sometimes to find everything out, but definitely do it, okay? But your ETD is very likely to include material created by others, okay? It could be a table or a figure. You can't just go into a table or a figure and swap the columns. Or I had somebody on a figure one time, the bed was going, this way, and they moved it that way. That's not enough of a modification. That is a plagiarism violation. You can pretty much assume that everything requires a copyright unless it specifically states it does not, okay? And that includes a lot of things on the web, okay? The thing that I have the most problems with is many of you are using surveys or something that appeared in a journal article or appear on a website. And your faculty are saying, oh, you have to put that in the appendix. No, you don't. Please don't. I beg you don't, okay? It's not essential. You can just put the link in your journal, in your paper, and if anybody wants to see the survey, click the link. There's no copyright with that, okay? But if you print it out and put it in your appendix, you got to get copyright on it, okay? That idea of putting those kinds of things in the appendix comes back from when I did my thesis and dissertations back in the Stone Ages, okay? Because you couldn't find them easily. A web link nowadays, you guys click links. If you want to see something, you click it, okay? So I really beg you, try not to put superfluous information into your thesis or dissertation when you can use a link. That solves a lot of problems right there. Now, there is something called fair use exception, and there's a form, and you can fill that out. Like, for instance, a fair use exception is when you go and you Xerox a journal article for your class at the library. You go over to the library and you Xerox it. Have you ever noticed there's a little sticker at the bottom of it that says something about copyright? That's fair use because you're using it for an academic purpose. You're thinking a thesis isn't an academic purpose. Nope. Thesis is a written document that's published, so it doesn't fall under the fair use exception in that sense, but it does in other ways. There will be some surveys and things online that are fair use. People will say, yep, that's fine. So I would always talk with Lietta. She can help you distinguish between what would be fair use and what would be copyrighted. She's very, very good. I would check that, okay? Always err on the side of caution. Assume a copyright is needed, okay? So on the online, you try to find out who's that website or send it to some questions place on there. In a journal, you go to a website, go to the journal's website. So if you're using a journal from Springer or EBSCO, go to their website. Usually on the right-hand side, there's a link. Copyright? Click it. It'll tell you exactly what to do. I've had no problem. I did it one time, and I was writing a book, and I had 3 figures that one of my chapter contributors used. And I went and I read the copyright, and it said, if you're using 3 or fewer figures from a chapter in a book, you don't need copyright permission. Print that out, save it to your desktop, put it in the appendix for us. Okay, your appendices will look weird, but that's okay. That way we know that no copyright was needed. Otherwise, it'll tell you, apply for copyright here. And you click a button and you fill out a form. And they usually respond very quickly. It is not difficult to get copyright permission. The bigger problem we're having is having you ask for it, okay? So give yourself some time. Just make sure you can include a copy of all of the permissions that you get back, or a letter that says you don't need it. Just stick it, so you can call it Appendix E, copyright permissions, and boom, okay? So definitely look into that. That includes photographs, that includes figures, tables, anything that you've taken from somewhere else that you didn't generate 100% on your own. Oh, I changed it a little. I'm telling you, you don't want to get sued, okay? I just had to do this with, I'm secretary of this international organization. And in 2008, somebody used a photo on one of their posters at a face-to-face convention. And for some reason, that poster got put online. That website, it was taken down about in like 2011 or something like that. Last year, somebody came back to us because things never really totally disappear from the web. Somebody came back to us and said there's a copyright violation and wanted us to pay $1,000. We negotiated, but we ended up having to pay about $275 for that copyright violation. So I'm telling you, you do not want to get in that position. And people have contacted me on ETDs a year, 2 years later and said, they didn't get copyright from me, they cited me and they didn't put me here. So this is important, okay? It really is difficult, okay? So there's a fair use guide, but I'm telling you, use Lietta. That's what she's there for. It's a problem that everybody faces, and it's only getting more difficult than easier, okay? So the next thing, so previously published personal work. So I've seen that all in the chat here. Okay, so there's something at the USF campus known as a 3-article dissertation. Okay, many of you in the sciences do a 3-article dissertation. Awesome, that's a great thing. That's how they do it in Europe, no problem. The problem is you may need to get copyright from the people. So here's the rules of thumb. If the article is already in print, okay, so you did it your 2nd or 3rd year in the program, it's in print. Now please remember, to use them in a 3-article dissertation, you are supposed to be first author, okay? You need to be the primary contributor. Many of you have 10, 15 articles before you get out of here because you're working with multiple authors, okay? So you need to be the primary contributor. I'll get back to where you wrote the lit review and somebody else wrote the method and somebody else, we'll get back to that, okay? So if it's already in print, 100% of the time you need to notify the publisher and ask them, can you include it in your dissertation? 95% of the time they will say yes, no problem. Now, if I were you, I wouldn't include the article as it is in the journal because the margins aren't right and it's just very difficult. I'd go back to the Word document that you submitted to them for the article and use that as your chapter 2 or whatever, okay? That's what I would do. If you want to use the preprint or the print of the article, I would set up the chapter and tell them that the actual article's in the appendix. We don't look carefully at the margins in the appendix, and so you can put it in there. So there's 2 ways to do it. Now, the other thing that the publisher will do when you use that article is they'll tell you how they want it to be cited. One journal recently wanted the citation in every footer of chapter 2. So if it was 20 pages long, in the footer of chapter 2, we had the reference. I've had one journal article say, yeah, you can cite it, we just don't want you to publish it. So you go chapter 2, you put the title of the article, and then you put the link to the journal article, and it'll go out there. Find out what they want. Some of them want it at the top, some of them want it at the end, okay? You got to do what they say. Okay, that's part of the copyright agreement. Okay, so however they tell you they want to be notified, you got to do it their way. Okay, so as you can see, a note to the reader, a footnote, some samples right there. You got to follow the directions. But if it's already in print, you have to ask. If you just submitted it to, now let me just make you feel better. Most journals are totally fine with this. They understand this 3-article dissertation. They know everybody's doing it. It's a cool thing to do. They're fine with it usually, okay? So don't worry, but you do need to get their permission, okay? Now, if you've just submitted something to a publisher, you need to let them know that you are going to print it in your dissertation. You need to let them know, even before it's been reviewed. Just let them know. They probably won't care, but it's okay. Usually you have to put an acknowledgement at the end of your paper saying this article or article also appeared as a dissertation entitled blah USF or whatever. I've had to do that I always put that in there at the end, okay? So you got to do that. If it has not been submitted yet, you need to talk to your major professor and talk about if you're going to submit it, where you might submit it, see what their rules are on it, or embargo it for a year until it shows up in print, okay? So that's how you handle articles that are already in print. Now, if you wrote the method chapter of an article, you are more than, and the other person did you're not the first author got the credit. You're welcome to use that method chapter in your dissertation, You just need to acknowledge where it came from, and you should probably get copyright because it's going to be pretty much the same. Okay. So I've had some people do that. You're in a lab and 5 or 6 people work on the article and everybody does a piece of it. So you should check on that. You can ask Leetta first, but you can do that. That's totally fine. But you can't take the whole article unless you are the primary contributor to that article. Okay. All right. Personal article. Okay. Fine. Got it. Did we do anything? Okay, so this is IRB and IACUC. IRB is human subjects, IACUC is animal subjects, okay? So you need to submit to the Institutional Review Board, okay, to determine that your research is not going to harm anyone. Now, please know that the IRB looks at it at front, and then you submit, updates every year to 2 years to them. They're not monitoring, they don't come and check you on things. So they're not this body that's out there watching everything, but we need to know that you had permission to do this, okay? So all you have to do is include their determination or exemption letter within the appendix. And nowadays they've gotten a little tougher that even if your research is exempt, they like to have it over in the IRB office. So you really should submit it, okay? What kinds of things are exempt? Okay, lately I had a good friend of mine that retired. She sent me a ton of data from one of her NIH grants. Okay, so every time I use that data, it's all de-identified. All I know is male, 7 years old. That's usually all I know. Okay, so I don't know who the person is. I don't need IRB approval for that. It's de-identified data. But as I understand it, the IRB still now wants me to submit that through. Okay, so if you didn't and you used the identified data, please let us know that in your appendix. Just put a little thing in there telling us what it is. Be very, 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 very careful. We'll talk about some things in a minute that violate these things, but make sure that we know it needs to be the actual letter. Where can I find that letter? Easy peasy. You go to your IRB portal. It's ARC. I don't like to say that because the undergraduate petitions are ARC petitions, but it's ARC. You go in there, and if you submitted it, the letter's right there in your file, okay? If not, talk to your major professor. If you're using their IRB, they can print out a letter for you. It's not that hard to get. It is in the ARC. If your professor doesn't help you, just talk to the IRB, tell them who you are, and see if they can help you get the letter that shows what you're doing, okay? So that needs to be in there. All right, now data and HIPAA. Okay. Oh, you guys have got to be so careful on this. This is why I'm not a huge fan of putting your data in the appendix, the raw data in these long Excel sheets. Number one, they're incredibly difficult to format. Number two, they're totally unnecessary, okay? If you want your data to be used or to be public, please find the site within your field and submit it there, okay? I'm a linguist, okay? So we have Childis, and you can submit data into Childis and other people can use your data, and that's all fine and good. Data sharing is great. It just doesn't need to be in your thesis or dissertation. See, I'm trying to help you make it easy to format, but if you're going to put that stuff in there, you've got to take out identifiable data. True story, had a student a couple years ago, she put all of her informed consents in the appendix. Complete with medical data, first names, last names, phone numbers, all kinds of personal information. It was out there for about 2 years, and a psychiatrist from LSU Medical Center called me up and they said, did you know that this student has personally identifiable data out on the web? I was like, no, I did not know that. Now, how we missed that in my office, I'll never know. But we had to go in, pull it down, change it. The faculty member got sanctioned by the university. I'm not sure the student might have lost their degree. We're not messing around with this, okay? It's got to be de-identified. So you know all the FERPA kinds of things. You can see them on the screen, telephone numbers, fax numbers. Even when you're writing, you're not allowed to use subjects' names or even their initials. We had a Title IX case come in once off of a dissertation, and the person used the initials of the people that participated. Those initials matched the people filing the complaint. You can't do that. You need to say, you know, boy 1, boy 2 if you're doing a little children thing. You need to say subject 1, subject 2, or you use pseudonyms. You call them Jose or Charles or whatever, but you also put a statement in the beginning of your method section, the names have been changed to pseudonyms. You've got to make it clear that these aren't real names. So please don't use names or any kind of identifying information in a publication. That is an egregious HIPAA violation. You can lose your degree, okay? And we will find out. Somebody will find it and report it to us, okay? Because it happens all of the time. Okay, so I just looked at the last thing on that previous chart was full face photography. Here we go. Use of, see? So photography, as we have gone forward, I've had so many more thesis and dissertations that were using Instagram and Twitter, and ooh, be careful. It is rarely necessary to include a Twitter handle or a picture of the person who posted it. It should be what's being said, not what the person is. So, you know, you can black those out, take them out, copy the quotes. Photos, okay? I had people do some things with Instagram where they went in and they, you know, dismantled the face and put it back together so it was weird and took pictures and used them for the experiment. That's fine. Your IRB might cover that. Your IRB should also have a statement that says, I will use some of these photos in my thesis or dissertation. Do you give me permission to use your photo? Okay, you can't just put people's photos. You see them, you know, you've seen kids, they cut them off at the head or they blank things out on the screen on the news. You got to do that, okay? So you can use photography if you were the person who took the photo, or you must have permission from the photographer or publisher, okay? I have a friend who's an excellent photographer. She sells her photos to books to use them as covers. Okay, that's a copyrighted thing. You would need permission to use that, okay? Any human subjects have to give you written permission to include your likeness in the ETD. If you look very carefully at all the photos on the USF website, those people have either signed a photo release or it's in such a way that you only see the back of their heads or the sides so that you can't identify them, okay? So we have to conceal identity when we don't have release. We do check this. I'm very particular about checking the copyright issues and the photos and the IRB, data, HIPAA violations. The lawyers on campus love me for being really careful on that. So yes, I'm very conservative on my point of view, but we haven't had any troubles. And that's what's really critical. And it's best for you. You don't want this to happen to you. So please be very careful. You can create a photo release form and then just put a blank copy in the appendix, because at least then we know that you used it, and then we do have to trust that that person that you say gave you release actually did. How will we ever find out? Well, that person will eventually sue you if they didn't give you permission. So I don't have to worry about that. If they don't say anything, then you're good. All right. So here's some frequently asked questions. So I'm going to go through these real quick, and then I see I have a slew to look at. So if my dissertation hasn't been approved yet, will I still be called at commencement? Yes, 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 yes. The minute you turn in the ETD, you are good to go. We are going to work with you till that thing is done. But I'm telling you, the minute the next semester starts, you got to register again. So our biggest problem is with people who we've given a little bit of time to. Once commencement goes by, I had somebody in the Andes Mountains, oh, I'll do it when I come back. Yeah, you're going to be registering for next semester and graduating the next semester. Get it done, okay? Get it done. We want to help you, okay? So, but yes, you get it in, and if it's a delay because of us, no problem. You will definitely graduate. You can definitely walk. Not a problem. How do you know if it's been reviewed? Check your email. Check your email. Okay, it's gonna come. Check your spam. Sometimes it goes to spam. We use ProQuest. You can go in there and look and see what's happening there. They have some documentation. I can't help things going to spam. We send out so many emails that it just happens sometimes. Okay, if you have a question with formatting, email grad etdmail@usf.edu. She will get back to you very quickly and help you with your question. You can also book a help session. These are on our quick links, but you can come in and you can have a 15-minute session with Ashley at your convenience, and she'll go over what she's saying. So please don't book more than one at a time. You only get 15 minutes because we got work to do. So we want to help as many people. Remember, up to 230 people are trying to graduate at a time. Okay. We also have some help sessions. This is the workshop, but there's some help sessions that you can come in and get some help. And sometimes bring your computer. If you have a face-to-face meeting with us or something, or even online, you know, give us a copy of your document. I have been known to go in and put page numbers and add section breaks. Okay. We will sometimes do it. Okay. Show you how to do it and do it, then beg you not to backspace and delete what we just did. But anyway, we're happy to help. We're here to help. This is not meant to be an onerous process. We are there every step of the way. Nobody wants you to graduate more than we do. Okay, and that is a promise. Okay, so let me go. All right, so I'm going to start with the questions. So this one's from David, and it says, when using a journal article that we've already published as a chapter for our dissertation, what is the best way to handle the supplemental materials? Oh gosh, great question, David. I think you could do it one of two ways. Some people like to keep it all together in the chapter. So just, you know, put the references and then put supplemental materials and just go with it. Or you can put them in the appendix, Appendix C, supplemental materials for the article in chapter 2, and list the article title down. So you can do it either way. I don't have a preference. It's really up to you. Some people really want it right there with the chapter. Please remember that, you know, it is a thesis or dissertation, so people are really not, when they do pull that down, they don't really care. They know how it works. They'll find it in the back. So it's up to you, whatever you want to do. Okay, so then, yeah, he did. Yeah, so we already talked about, you know, if it's going to be verbatim, then you definitely need permission. The formatting edits don't get away from copyright violations, so you need permission. So you're just going to get a letter from them saying it's totally fine, and it probably will be, and just put it in the appendix. All right. Oh, new one. Haven't seen this one. Awesome, Wayne. Okay, so interactive alternative dissertation format. Awesome. I really am thrilled to hear this. We need something on paper. So you have the interactions I see is mostly hyperlinks, embedded video, and audio. I don't see where that would be a real problem as long as the hyperlinks go out to a place where we can find that material. So one way to do that would be to set up your own YouTube channel, and we can help you do that. It's really pretty easy. Just go to YouTube and you can store the material there, so that way anybody, and you have the permissions on the YouTube channel, anybody that gets this can click the link and still see the recorded material. So I don't know, Wayne, you're going to have to write back and tell me, did that help? I think that's the way I would handle it. I don't want you to put that in the document. You can if you want, but it's going to be gigantic. And then we may have to, you know, do it in pieces through the plagiarism checker, but we can do that too. You know, but yours will be way above 400 megabytes, and that's what I was saying. So I think the way to make it less megabytes is to set up a YouTube channel and store that there. We do this all the time over here. You know, you get your emails from us and we have a link and we've stored it out on SharePoint or something so that you can see it, but you don't have to have it in your email. So I hope that helped. You didn't say anything more, so let me know. Lorianne, I'm doing an autoethnography for my dissertation and my major professor says we don't need to get IRB approval. Should I do the process anyway or believe my major professor? If it's only you, I think you're fine. I just think, you know, definitely remind us. I know this is stupid, but just remind us after you read 6 or 7 of these a day and you forget, you don't see the word autoethnography. So they'll be like, where's the IRB? So just put a little thing in the back telling you it's autoethnography. You are the only participant and we'll be fine. I'm using archival data that was given to me by a private company and authorized for use under an NDA and no identifiable report. Do I need to include the NDA in the paper? I would definitely include the NDA in the appendix. I would mention it in your method section, that's how you got these data, stressing that they're de-identified and no, you wouldn't need to get IRB approval. Okay, if we obtained verbal consent, as approved by IRB to attach participants' names to direct quotes. Yes, wow, I'm surprised they approved that, but if they approved it, definitely print that part of your IRB approval out and print the review back to us so that we know that, because that's highly unusual. So there must be a really, and it's fine, really strong reason to have the participant's name on there. You know, I mean, I've had people put Donald Trump's quotes and things, and yeah, you know, there's a reason to have his name on it. I can see it. So as long as they gave it, just prove it to us. So show us the part in your IRB, just point it out to us and we'll be fine. Can we use the help sessions the semester prior to graduation? If not, what other steps can we take of it? Yes. I just don't want you to do 15 or 20 sessions the semester before. We want to make sure that the people that are graduating can do it. But absolutely, no, more power to you. Get ahead of the game. You know, if you're not graduating in the semester, if you could talk to them now, they're less busy now than they'll be in a month. And so that's, you know, it's when it's the November crunch time, I want to kind of keep it to those students that are graduating. So awesome. It looked like a lot of questions. It was not. Anything else? So I love, she's got her contacts on here. So there's the Resource Center. There's our YouTube page. So you can find previous recordings. This recording will be up soon. It takes us a little bit of time. It's a federal law that we have to caption it. So that takes us a little bit of time, but we'll get it up pretty soon. Victor says, how can I be sure that I've received IRB approval? I've been trying to look where it is and have had trouble. You've got to go to the IRB website and log in using your net ID to the ARC, and then you should be able to find your project in there. Click on that, and I believe the approval letter should be over on the left-hand side as one of the links. If not, I would email the IRB help, and they should be able to help you. Jonathan, if we include a popular meme in our dissertation, should we check on the copyright? I would. Popular is working in your favor, you know, but I still would check. You know, influencers like their money, so I don't know. Yeah, fair use, exactly. Good point, Ashley. So fair use. Check with Leetta on that one. I just really encourage you to use as few names, figures, pictures as possible. Keep it really, really boring. Remember, save all the cool stuff for the publication. You know, I mean, people are going to read the publication more than they're going to see this and read the abstract and stuff. But I wouldn't worry so much about this. Now, please be sure. Once you submit the ETD and we approve it, so each time you submit it to us, please remember that this might be the final copy. It is impossible to change it after we submit it to ProQuest, okay? Impossible to change it. So there's a typo. I open my thesis and dissertation and find a typo every time. So, I mean, that's the way it goes. If you forgot something, the minute we submit it to ProQuest, it's too late, okay? All right, if I use a draw from an article, should I get copyright? Your drawing is what you're referring to? Absolutely, yes. Anything else? Well, you guys have been awesome. I'm not as funny when I'm online like this. I like to be in person. I'm much funnier in person than I am on these lines. So I miss seeing your faces. I miss getting to interact with you. As any of you have met me, you know that's kind of my thing. So I like to talk to you. So please don't hesitate to email us. We're happy to help. We always want to see you succeed. We really want to see you make it through. I totally get how stressful it is, and we really want to make sure that you know, you don't go through any unnecessary stress. Okay, that's my goal. Remember my little rule of thought. If something takes you, not the writing part, you know, I can't help you write the abstract or whatever, but if any formatting thing takes you more than 20 minutes, I promise you we have a way to make it go faster. Just ask, I promise. So don't spend an hour doing something. Remember this. And she said more than 20 minutes. I mean it. Okay, we got some tricks up our sleeve. All right, well, have a great day. Unfortunately, it's pouring, so I hope you're not having to walk outside somewhere. Hope you're home and warm. Have a great afternoon. So good to spend some time with you. Thanks so much.